Can you make video shot on something like this look as if it was shot on something like this thing here? With Dehancer you can. Let me show you how. What is it about the movies we grew up with that makes them so special, warm, and real? Obviously, it's the melancholy, the memories we connect with who we were seeing them. But part of it is that they look like films, like movies shot on film. When I see a movie shot on real film, I get the same feeling as when I listen to vinyl. It's a little noisy, it's not perfect, it has surface noise. And so does life itself. It has surface noise. It's imperfect and human. So, how do we achieve this kind of image quality? Well, you can always buy a camera in a lab to develop your film if you have a couple of 100,000, or you can get Dehancer. Dehancer. So first of all, full disclosure, Dehancer reached out to me to try their plugin, which I was more than happy to do because I already did use it and I already did love it. But I am free to say whatever I want about it, good or bad. They're not sponsoring this video. They did send me a copy of the plugin for me to use, and they also gave me a 10% code that you guys can use if you decide to buy it after this video. So the code is Heartflash. And it will give you 10% off, and it would make me a happy, happy boy. We're in DaVinci Resolve, and I want to show you a little bit how I would typically use Dehancer to grade a clip from the movie you just saw. So here we go. We go to the color tab, and here you see my node tree that I normally start with. I never use all of them, you know, but it looks kind of fancy. It's good to have them. So there's a couple of ways to use Dehancer. The easiest would be to just add the plugin. Knowing what camera you have, you choose your camera brand. I have a Blackmagic 6K. I would go here. I would go Generation 5 ISO 400. That's what I filmed in. So right away, it looks pretty cool, but it's far from what we want. So that's the easy way. Then you would just work yourself through this extensive plugin step by step. So that would be the easy way. The way I like to do it is a little more time consuming, but it gives you more control basically. And we like that, don't we? So I start with a CST to turn my footage into a DaVinci wide gamut. Because it's a wider field to work in. Is that what it's called? Field? I don't know. Anyway, so that's how it goes here. Input and then output to Rec 709. Boom. So that's your Rec 709. And in between here, I like to do all my correcting to make it an acceptable picture to work with in Dehancer, which is coming after my output CST. Does that make sense? I hope so. It works for me. You know, that's what I'm doing. It's probably wrong, but it works for me. So let's get this party started. Don't say that. Don't say that. Let's go. So I normally check for noise. Do we have any noise? Nothing to speak of the way I see it. So I wouldn't really need to use the noise reduction. So I'm just gonna build a quick base so we can get in to Dehancer and build the look from there. So here we go. This is normally how I do it. A nice S-curve. And first of all, a thing that always bites me in the ass is look through your clip before you spend 45 minutes perfecting it and then you realize, oh, there's the sun. You know, just be safe out there. So yeah, of course the sun is way high, way high. It is what it is, isn't it? Still want to bring the shadows in the grass up here. Doing the white balance. I think I want this a little to the yellow side. Sundown. We have to saturate it. I think that's fine. So when we have a look we're happy with, it's time to add Dehancer, and we do so after my output CST. So we're working in Rec 709 here. Why? Because someone told me. No one told me. I heard. I saw someone on YouTube say that was a good idea, and I tried it and I liked it, so I stuck with it. So what meets you when you open up the plugin? Well, a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. And it's gonna change your life. The first thing that happens is really that the picture looks a little bit weird. But don't worry. This is the default and it's not a one size fits all. So the first thing I do is to go down to film grain, turn that off because it takes a lot of juice from your computer, and I like to add it at the very end anyway. Then I would go and look through all the film stock. I mean, that is the big star of the show here. I mean, I can just go through here and click, and you see they have put down such an amazing job. I don't know what they did. Well, actually I do know what they did, but I could never explain it to you because I am not a smart cookie when it comes to stuff like that. But I read about it, and you should definitely go to their blog that they have, Dehancer, and read very fascinating articles about their process, about everything they do. It's amazing. It's amazing, really. I cannot stress that enough. Normally what I would go for is one of the Kodak Vision stocks here. And just right off the bat, I would go right now for 250D. All of these are explained in their on their website. You should definitely read about it. It's nerd porn, to be honest. So you have push-pull, which the way I understand it is underexposed, overexposed, 2 steps in each direction, and it's a smooth thing you can go through here and get pretty drastic changes just by doing that. So that's what we have. I think I just keep it in the pretty much in the middle. After that I would go down to print, which is the print stock. Pick one that I like. Again, they drastically change your image, and in a lovely way, all of them. And here I would probably go for glossy paper. Is one that I normally go for. It's a little plainer. It's a little plainer. It's a little more plain.
Plain and sensible is best.
And here you have color density, which is, it doesn't make it more saturated, but it's making your colors deeper, the way I understand it. It's just warmer and not necessarily brighter and fake looking, but nice. So here's just what they printed. That's all we did. Here I could change the tonal contrast. Very powerful. I think I like it somewhere around there. So what would I do next? Film developer. Here you have a color boost. I always pull this one up quite a bit, just to see where I am. Here you also have a contrast boost. I'm just gonna leave that, but I think the color boost is really helping. Film compression. Look at the sun and the sky, how it just flattens out in a natural way, I would say. Not this HDR, iPhone HDR way, but in a beautiful way. And it makes it look more like film. You don't want it looking too flat, but I don't know. I kind of like this. It brings out the sky. The sun is still extremely bright, but that's the sun. And then you have this expand, which is also a really nice tool to have, where you can really pull down your blacks and up with your whites, basically. It's like a, if you know anything about mixing music, then this is the Pultec EQ to me. Bass and treble. It really works. So we have the film compression, the expand film, of course, film developer helping it out a little bit. So then we come down to the color head, which is another crazy amazing tool that they've added to this plugin. And sometimes I add Dehancer on a clip only to use this. It's crazy. It's doing something that at least I can't do with the normal color wheels or whatever. I don't know how it's working. It's very analog, you know. I'm not a scientist. Well, I am, but you know, it's amazing. Just look at this. It's not how organic it looks going between yellow and blue here, for example. You know, even to the extremes, it's pretty, you know, good. Look at this. And then, of course, mix and match until, you know, it's, and you can choose your shadows separately, warm, cold, your midtones. Wow, that really brought out the sky. See, I didn't know that would happen.
That's a bingo!
I love a happy accident, and this plugin is full of them, believe me. Look at the clouds in the middle. So I can just disable and enable this one. I mean, and then we have some of the more weird side effects of shooting on film. Stuff like halation, which is I don't know how to explain it. I don't know what's happening, but it's around high contrast areas such as this here. When I add this halation, it brings like a red shine to it. I don't know how to explain it. but it just, I love it. Look here, for example, here. On, off, on, off. You know, it's easy to overuse this because it's like a, you know, thing that is easy to overuse because it's cool. So in each of these effects sections, or whatever you want to call it, you have presets, which is very helpful if you want to go for a quick look. So on Halation, for example, I can choose 16mm and then amplify it here. But if you go, after you choose one, you can go into custom, and there you'll find all the parameters to change the tiniest detail of said effect. So that's awesome. So that's Halation. Moving on to Bloom. Bloom is this dream effect, or whatever you want to call it. It's like, it's kind of bleeding the highlights in strong contrast areas. If you look at the, it's pretty overdone here, but you get the point here. You can see it in mask mode, which is pretty helpful sometimes to see what you're actually doing. So it can get a little too dreamy, too soft, in my opinion, even though it is a side effect of film. Another one that's very easy to overdo, I think. It certainly digitalizes your image, so that's cool. Then you have film damage. Again, same thing, you find a preset. On film damage, it can be pretty hard to know what you're doing because it really takes a lot of power from your computer, and unless you have a supercomputer, it's hard to get a smooth playback. You see 6 frames a second here. I kind of know what it's doing now, so I go back and forth rendering my file, going back, tweaking, and so on, and then after a while you know what it's doing. So, and here in the custom settings you can change pretty much everything about the film damage. Hair, dust, I usually turn scratches off. Depending on what I have, if it's a bright picture, I sometimes want black, more black dust and hair. Sometimes not, but it depends on what you have. Sometimes I don't want film damage at all, of course. But it's very cool, and again, less is more. Less is more.
How can less be more? It's impossible. More is more.
It actually is. And then we come down to film breath, which is also a side effect of film where contrast and color changes slightly from between the frames. I don't know, wait. Accidental change in exposure, contrast, and color from frame to frame as the film moves. Yeah, it's one of those things you can add just to sell the effect even more. Subtle is better. And then we have gate weave, which is another side effect where the film swings as it's running through the camera. So it's kind of moving. So it makes the kind of, so it makes your whole film kind of shake a little bit. And when you use this carefully, it also helps selling the illusion of film for sure. So I think if you combine all these, gate weave, film breath, and film damage, you can add another level of authenticity to your film. And then you have, at least on this beta version, overscan, which is this. Not a huge fan as it is right now, but I'm sure they will keep building on it and make it awesome, like everything else they do. So it's a beta version. Yes, the last thing I add normally is grain, which is, to me at least, the thing that makes it look like film. And the grain on Dehancer is, as far as I know, one of a kind. It doesn't just add a layer of predetermined grain on your image. It works with your colors and it works with whatever is underneath it. So it's like a living thing, and it's amazing. I've never seen fake grain look so real as in Dehancer. That's for sure. Again, it can be challenging to find a good spot to land on here with film grain, because it's one of those things, when it's overdone, it looks fake. So I think normally I would start with 65mm 50. It's tiny. It just adds this velvety thing on top of your picture, which I don't know if you can see this on YouTube, but it's very subtle. Here, I can overdo it a little bit, but it kind of makes it feel like you can touch the picture, like it's a real thing. You know what I mean? It's really beautiful. And here, of course, you can go totally crazy. You know, like 8mm. But as I said, I normally start with 65, 50. And then I go into the custom settings and tweak it from there. And here is a big thing. Maybe the most important thing for me in the whole plugin is film resolution. It's like a built-in blur. So if you have a super grainy picture like this now, and a very sharp video underneath, it looks fake. Because the way I understand it is that the smallest detail size of your image cannot exceed the grain size. Does that make sense? So in other words, as you see here, the grain is way bigger than the actual detail in my image. So if I pull this down, that's really when the magic happens, I feel. And then again, find a sweet spot. Of course, this is not real film. You can do whatever you want, but I think this is kind of beautiful. So here you see it without and with. I love it. I love it. So I guess that's it with my little grade here of this example. I can just show you a before and after what we did here. Before, after. Before and after. I mean, of course, I did this kind of fast just to show you, but the possibilities are endless with this plugin, and you should buy it too. And you should really use my code. But you know, download the trial, try it out, but you will love it, you will buy it. Is it expensive? Well, it costs a lot of money, if that's what you mean with expensive. Do you get your money's worth? For sure. You will use this on every project. Not only to get this retro look, but also use it as just a color grading tool, which I do all the time. I feel I can't work without it. It would feel like something is missing if I didn't have it. And one thing I really love about it is that it gives you some happy accidents. Every time I use it, something weird happens, something weird that I love, and that's great because, you know, perfection is boring. So I guess that's pretty much it for this little color grade. I only scratched the surface here of what you can do, but hopefully I gave you a little taste of what's possible. And again, I'm not a professional colorist.
Obviously. You
don't have to be a professional colorist to use this. It's not easy to use. It's not a, you know, it's not an Instagram filter.
Ouch. Precisely.
But if you're willing to put in some time and to read about what it's actually doing, what they did to make that happen, I'm sure you're gonna find it just as fun as I do, and useful. And just to show you my happy accidents theory, I've made a couple of different grades on this short clip, just to show you how different results you can get depending on which film stock you use, which print you use, and so forth. So have a look. So if you're still watching, thank you so much for doing that. Please subscribe, like, and what's the third one? Hit the bell. Hit the bell. All right. Thank you. See you in the next one.